Hi, welcome to New Age Looping Basics, the e-course. Looping is an ancient textile technique. It's older than weaving, knitting, crochet, possibly dating back as much as 40,000 years. We're going to learn this technique using 21st century e-learning technology. So you could say we're going to take this from the cave to the cloud in 4 lessons. My name is Donna Kallner, and I'll be your guide on this journey, the instructor for the course, and I'm also here to help you learn to navigate in the world of e-learning if this is a first online course that you've taken. I want you to be familiar with the terrain and be comfortable with what we're going to do in the class because I want you to be able to just relax and enjoy what you're learning. So let's get started.
Looping is an incredibly versatile technique. You'll have fun playing with this for years. You can work looping with a lot of different types of materials. In this course, we're going to start with small exercises and projects that help you really understand the underlying structure of the technique and really master the thread control and tension control that let you do so much with it. The materials that you'll need for this course are pretty simple: needle, thread, scissors, and a mold to work on for some of the projects. I like to have students start working on a mold because it simplifies the visual field so you can only see one side of the piece at a time, and it can help you to get a better sense of the structure as you're learning this technique. A lot of people experience the looping technique for the first time stitching around a pretty stone or some other irregularly shaped object. I'm going to ask you to not choose an object like that for the beginning of this class. Let me tell you why. With a mold that has smooth, straight sides, you'll be able to take your work off the mold, play with it, feel how elastic the stitching can be, and still get it back on the mold so you can continue working on the piece. When I teach a class in person, I generally give students a small wood wafer as a mold to use for getting started. If you don't have something like that that's smooth and straight-sided available at hand, you may find that you have other things that work just as well. One of those things might be a piece of mat board, which is smooth and not too flexible. A wooden ruler works very well. This is a great purpose for empty bead containers. A little jewelry box or a box of kitchen matches is a very good mold. In the class video demonstrations, you'll see that I'm using a slightly larger mold. I do that so that it's easier for you to see what the stitch looks like. I'm going to suggest, though, that you stick with a smaller mold for your sampling. That way you'll be able to make enough progress that you can see what happens when you get to the next step. When you start working on projects of your own design, there are lots of different things that you can use for a mold, and I'll talk more about those. And we'll talk about projects that you might start on a mold and then take off the mold to finish, or projects that are worked entirely without a mold. The thread that you'll want to use to begin this class is something that's smooth and not too stretchy. This will really make a difference in you understanding the tension control and being able to visualize the structure of the technique as you're learning. One of my favorite materials to use for teaching is Irish waxed linen, generally in a 3-ply or 4-ply. And there are links in your introduction email to some online vendors. In the early demonstrations for the class, you're going to see me working with a heavier thread, a 7-ply Irish waxed linen that I'm using primarily just to make it easier for you to see on the video. In the video demonstrations, I'll also be using a much larger needle than what you would want to buy, or what I would normally use in my own work. And I'm doing that just to make it easier for you to see what's going on. The needles you'll want to use for this course are tapestry needles. Tapestry needles have a large eye and a blunt tip. Like other needles, the sizing on tapestry needles can be a little bit confusing. The higher the number, the smaller the needle. So a size 26 needle would be much smaller than a size 18 needle. Peacemaker's needles tend to have a little larger eye and be a little bit easier to thread than the DMC needles. A general rule of thumb is to use the smallest needle you can comfortably thread. For me, I'm pretty comfortable with a size 24 tapestry needle when I'm using 3-ply Irish waxed linen. When I'm using 4-ply, I might be more comfortable using a 22 or a 20. That's a look at the ideal materials for this course. You may have other things on hand that will work just as well. That's it for this video. There is a second video in this orientation that takes a look at the course logistics. So please take a look at that one to be ready for the beginning of New Age Looping Basics. Thanks.